Hello and welcome. It's 10 a.m. on Thursday, the 30th of October. You're tuned in to our mid-morning newscast here on ARIRANG TV. It's great that you could join us. I'm Mark Broome. Let's take a look at what's making the headlines. With the U.S. economy showing signs of life, the Federal Reserve completely pulls the plug on its 6-year-long monthly bond-buying stimulus plan. It also vows to keep interest rates near zero for a considerable period of time. High-level inter-Korean talks that would have been held today if North Korea had agreed to the South's proposal have been cancelled. Seoul's still open to talks, but says there are no plans to reach out to the North, for the time being at least. Plus, the number of confirmed Ebola cases continues to rise in West Africa, but the WHO says the situation in Liberia is improving due to a major public awareness campaign in the country. We start with a decision that was widely expected but could have great reverberations around the world. The U.S. Federal Reserve has completely pulled the plug on its 6-year-long monthly bond buying program, citing the ever-improving economic situation. In the United States, it has also decided to keep interest rates near zero for a considerable period of time. Now, Kim Min-ji starts us off.
It's official. The Federal Reserve has called time on the quantitative easing stimulus program it started in 2008 during the global financial crisis. The widely expected decision came at the end of a 2-day meeting of the Federal Open Market Committee in Washington. In a statement released on Wednesday, the Fed said there has been a substantial improvement in the outlook for the labor market and that the broader economy has grown stronger. The Fed also expressed confidence the moderate economic recovery in the U.S. will continue despite a global economic slowdown. With the focus on achieving maximum employment and price stability, the U.S. central bank said it will maintain the 0 to 0.25% target range for interest rates for what it called a considerable time. But it did add that a rate hike could take place if the committee sees progress towards its employment and inflation objectives. At its highest point, the Federal Reserve was pumping $85 billion a month into the financial system. It started cutting back on the program in increments last year as the economy steadily picked up. Since the program's introduction, the Fed has made more than $4 trillion in bond purchases. Kim Min-ji, ARIRANG News.
Now, the world's largest smartphone maker, Samsung Electronics, is continuing to have a bit of a torrid time. The Korean company reported on Thursday that its profits in the third quarter hit a more than 3-year low of $3.9 billion. That's down more than 60% from a year earlier. That's also in line with estimates issued earlier this month, as the company's mobile division continues to find it pretty difficult at the moment. Korea's LG Electronics, on the other hand, is having a bit of a better time of it. LG says its third quarter profits jumped 87% from a year earlier as it posted record smartphone sales. Smartphone shipments rose 40%, hitting nearly 17 million units, driven largely by strong sales of its flagship G3 smartphone. Korea's largest portal operator, Naver, is also enjoying a bit of a good time at the moment thanks to the successful global launch of its mobile messenger line. The company said on Thursday that it posted an operating profit of $180 million in the third quarter this year. That's up 88% compared to the same period year earlier. Its overall sales rose 22% to $664 million, while net profit jumped a staggering 92%. Thanks to the robust growth of Line, the company's overseas revenue expanded 52% on year to reach $218 million, and that accounts for roughly a third of Naver's total sales. Now, in political news, and President Park Geun-hye has presented her push for next year's government budget, which comes in at nearly $20 billion more than this year's. In an address to the National Assembly on Wednesday, the president said new measures contained within it will help make the economy more innovative. She called on lawmakers to get it and other related bills passed as soon as they can. Choi Sun reports.
Despite the risks of financial losses and ballooning debt, the president said if Korea doesn't invest more to address the challenges of low growth, low inflation, and a weak Japanese yen, the Korean economy could fall into a long-term slump. Manufacturing production in the third quarter shrank by nearly 1%, and exports also dropped significantly.
지금이야말로 우리 경제가 도약하느냐, 정체하느냐의 갈림길에서 경제를 다시 세울 수 있는 마지막 골든 타임입니다.
Referring to her three-year economic innovation plan, President Park talked about her vision of a creative economy which involves converging IT and different sectors to spur growth and stimulate the job market. And so the government will increase its support for entrepreneurs, startups, and small to mid-sized firms next year by 17% to a total of some $8 billion. The government has also significantly increased funds for safety and welfare to bolster both the hard and software of safety management and to provide the country's seniors and low-income households with more financial support. President Park also asked the parliament to cooperate in completing by the year's end reforms of the public pension system, which has suffered an expanding deficit.
그동안 국가를 위해 헌신해온 공무원들의 희생을 요구해야 한다는 점에서 솔직히 어느 정부도 이런 개혁이 두렵고 피하고 싶을 것입니다. 그러나 매년 막대한 국민 세금이 투입되어야 하는 상황을 그대로 방치할 수는 없습니다.
Before wrapping up her speech, President Park said the government managing finances alone will do no good unless the parliament moves to pass a backlog of bills designed to improve the people's livelihoods and to strengthen the nation's safety system. Choi Yu-sun, Arirang News.
Now, and right after her address at the National Assembly, President Park sat down with the leaders and policymakers from the two rival parties here in Korea to try and find some middle ground on bills that have been stuck in limbo for months. So hopefully they can get Parliament going again. Now, Ji Myung-gil reports.
At the meeting, President Park Geun-hye and party leaders shared the view that the rival parties put aside differences and speed up long-stalled legislation that has been blamed for a slow economic recovery and public sector reform.
원래 목표는 그 경제를 활성화시켜서 세수도 늘리고 이렇게 하겠다는 건데 그 고리는 끊어지는 거거든요. 예산만 써버리고 그렇게 되지 않도록 시급한 상황이고 꼭 필요한 법안들만 이제 고르고 골라서 이렇게 부탁을 드리는 거니까 좀 시급히 처리를 좀 해주셨으면 하고.
Both parties agreed to pass next year's budget by the legal deadline of December 2nd, and the three bills seen as the most urgent by the end of this month. The three bills will help uncover the truth behind April's ferry sinking, enable public sector restructuring, and allow the government to go after illegally obtained assets. Speaking of the government's economic policies, the main opposition New Politics Alliance for Democracy's interim leader raised concerns over the government's stimulus measures.
Finance Minister Choi Kyung-hwan's stimulus drive dubbed Choinomics does not seem to lack specific policies to actually spur economic growth and restore consumer confidence. We believe the key to economic revitalization is improving livelihoods of the general public.
Moon said he believed the president will long be remembered in the country's political history if her government successfully removes inefficiencies in the public sector or reforms the pension program for civil servants by the end of the president's term in 2017. Wednesday's meeting with rival party leaders and policymakers comes as President Park seeks a breakthrough in the prolonged political deadlock between the two rival parties. Ji Myung-gil, Arirang News.
Said that a team of South Korea.
Get connected to Korea and the world. Join us every weekday for the latest developments out of Korea, Asia, and beyond. On air, on your mobile, and online, we lead the way every day. Arirang News.
To try and resolve the crisis in Ukraine, the European Union also offers $15 billion. Now, there would have been high-level inter-Korean talks between the two Koreas today if North Korea had agreed to the South's proposal, but That has, of course, been cancelled because that day was today. The North says it will not show up because South Korea bans activists from launching anti-North Korea propaganda leaflets over the border. Seoul says it's still open to hold talks with the North, but says it has no plans to hold those talks for the time being at least. Hwang Sang-hee reports.
North Korea has turned down South Korea's proposal for a second round of high-level talks slated for this Thursday. In a message sent early Wednesday morning via the Inter-Korean military hotline, the North said it is up to Seoul to decide whether to proceed with the high-level talks or to cling on to the anti-Pyongyang leaflet campaigns by South Korean activists. South Korea's unification ministry reiterated it has no legal grounds to ban the activities of civic groups.
Although we maintain a consistent stance of resolving issues through inter-Korean dialogue, we cannot give in to unjustifiable demands.
The two Koreas agreed to meet for high-level talks sometime between late October and early November upon a visit to South Korea by a high-level North Korean delegation last month. Since then, tensions have escalated over the controversial leaflet launches, even leading to an exchange of fire across the border. While the meeting may not happen within the planned time frame, some experts say both parties will want to talk things out within this year.
High-level talks are essential for improving inter-Korean relations and must take place this year in order to smooth things out for 2015. It could take some time, but the possibility of a second round of high-level talks is high.
Still, it's a question of who will reach out first. South Korea says it is open to talks, but made clear that it does not have plans to make additional proposals to the North for now. Hwang Sang-hee, Arirang News.
Washington's special envoy for the six-party talks has listed some representative examples for North Korea to show it's sincere about abandoning its nuclear ambitions. Speaking to reporters in Seoul on Wednesday, Sidney Seiler said Pyongyang should end its nuclear activities and refrain from provocative actions. But he made it clear that Washington has not loosened its preconditions for resuming these multilateral talks. The talks aimed at denuclearizing the North include the two Koreas, the US, China, Japan and Russia, and they have been stalled since 2008. Mr. Seiler is currently on a three-nation trip that includes stops in China and Japan. North Korea and Japan have wrapped up talks on Pyongyang's investigation into Japanese nationals abducted by the North in the 1970s and 80s. Speaking to reporters after meeting North Korean officials in Pyongyang, Junichi Ihara, who is Tokyo's top diplomat for Asian affairs, said his delegation stressed the abduction issue should be given the highest priority. He also urged Pyongyang to speed up the process. North Korea said the investigation was underway in burial grounds of Japanese citizens in the North. Pyongyang stressed it will inform Japan of any developments on that front. Now, the two sides also touched on a range of other issues, including Japanese survivors of the war who stayed in the North. The talks held in Pyongyang were the first of their type in a decade. Now, South Korea is charting a path to the widespread use of digital documentation, which means a more paperless society, not only in meeting rooms and conferences around the nation and around the world, but also in our daily lives. And this is just one of the goals that's being pursued at the ongoing International Telecommunication Union meeting down in the southern Korean port city of Busan. Our Shin Se-min reports.
Everything is going digital these days. From paying taxes to filing out resident registration documents, the use of electronic documentation has made tasks like these much more convenient. Korea is already a leader in the government digital documentation field. But some sectors are still reliant on paper, and experts say it may be a while before the use of electronic documentation is as widespread.
It is a cultural task, and it won't be easy trying to bring everyone on board. But considering the era that we live in, digitalizing documents is something that needs to be done, and soon. There will be no more paperwork if it all goes digital.
But there's still a number of obstacles. Only 43% of institutions and businesses in Korea use electronic documentations, lower than the government's aim of 50% by 2015. And experts attribute the gap to a lack of understanding and awareness among everyday users. A group of experts gathered on the sidelines of the Quadrennial ITU conference on Wednesday to discuss the possible directions for Korea in fully implementing these services on the domestic front and making inroads to the global market.
Fostering growth among private enterprises is the key to helping the sector expand. If the government puts more effort into sponsoring these services in the finance and medical sectors, where electronic documents are widely used, there will be no concerns about reaching the everyday user.
The National IT Industry Promotion Agency has already gotten a head start, and officials there say digital documentation services will soon be a reality in the IT sector. 신세민, 아리랑 뉴스, 부산.
Well, it's time now for a look through the global headlines we're following on this Thursday morning here in Seoul. For that, we turn to Eunice Kim standing by at our news centre. Hello there, Eunice.
Good morning, Mark.
Now, the World Health Organization is expressing, quote, cautious optimism that the spread of Ebola is slowing in one of the hardest hit countries, Liberia.
You're absolutely right. The WHO's Assistant Director General, Dr. Bruce Aylward, cited positive signs such as empty beds in treatment centers and the number of burials declining for that conclusion. He said the week-to-week trend could be attributed to the major public awareness campaign in the country, followed by a rise in safe burials and also in the number of infected people choosing to isolate themselves. Liberia has already seen more than 2,700 Ebola deaths. Aylward underlined that the fight against the virus is far from over, though. He said the number of confirmed cases has now exceeded 13,700, with the fatality rate remaining consistent at 70%. Nearly all of the Ebola deaths, of course, have been in Liberia, Sierra Leone, and Guinea. The WHO plans to increase the number of treatment centers and beds there and is also seeking foreign medical teams to staff them. A fight against global tax evasion. Finance ministers from 51 countries signed a pact Wednesday in Berlin that would end bank secrecy and enable said governments to share tax information automatically. The multilateral competent authority agreement will be effective beginning in 2017. Led by Europe's 5 largest economies, it was signed by most EU nations as well as traditional tax havens like the Cayman Islands. Noticeably missing, though, were Switzerland and the United States. Citing an economist, Business Insider says some $7.4 trillion are stashed away and go unreported, depriving governments of billions of dollars in tax revenue every year. Zambian President Michael Sata has died following a period of deteriorating health. His wife and son were by his bedside when the 77-year-old was pronounced dead at London's King Edward VII Hospital late Tuesday night. Sata, who served as the country's leader since 2011, had disappeared from public view months ago, amid local media reports saying that he was suffering multiple organ failure. The government did not publicize his condition, though. Vice President Guy Scott, a white Zambian of Scottish descent, has been named the country's acting president. He said new elections will be held within the next 90 days. Some 100 people are feared dead after heavy monsoon rains unleashed destructive landslides in central Sri Lanka. Local reports say an area of about 2 kilometers was affected by the landslide, crushing some 140 houses in Badula district. Several national highways were also washed away. A top military official told the AFP news agency that homes were buried under 9 meters of mud. Another official said many children have been orphaned as their parents were believed to have been home when those mudslides struck. Bad weather and the possibility of more landslides are hampering search efforts.
And a good Thursday morning to you all as we kick things off with the 2018 Pyeongchang Winter Games, which is still about 4 years away. But the organizing committee has plans for the figure queen Kim Yeon-ah leading up to the big event. Now on Wednesday, the Pyeongchang Winter Games organizing committee announced that Kim Yeon-ah has been appointed as the newest honorary ambassador for the Winter Olympics in 4 years, with an official ceremony set to take place on November 4th. The Vancouver gold medalist becomes the 6th honorary ambassadors, as names like Chu Shin-soo of the Texas Rangers and ballerina Kang Soo-jin were also previously anointed. And now shifting over to the 2014 National Sports Festival, which is currently taking place in Jeju. And on Wednesday, a new world record was set in the men's 70-meter recurve competition. And the new world record holder is 22-year-old Kim Woo-jin out of Cheongju City Hall team, as he shot 352 points with 36 arrows, breaking the previous world record of 350 points. But on the same day, the previous record holder Kim Jong-ho broke his own record with 351 points, but lost to Kim Woo-jin by a single point. And moving over to artistic gymnastics this time, where the latest world rankings were announced in the sport, but a familiar name was not included in the list of 46 gymnasts. Despite his nickname God of All, 22-year-old London gold medalist Yang Ak-sun was not included in the latest world ranking after finishing with a silver medal during the Incheon Asian Games and finishing in 7th place at the World Championships earlier this month. A huge drop for Yang Ak-sun, as he was previously ranked tied for 4th in 2013, but North Korea's Lee Se-kwang jumps up a few spots after a year, as he's currently ranked tied for 11th after winning gold at the World Championships. And moving over to domestic baseball this time, where SK Wyverns ace Kim Kwang-hyun held a press conference on Wednesday as he formally announced his decision to go MLB-bound next season. Now, speaking alongside SK Wyverns top officials and his parents, the 26-year-old discussed his plans leading up to him being posted sometime next month. He added that it's not the money he's interested in, but his dreams of playing in the majors. Kim, who made his debut back in 2007, has a career record of 83-49 with an ERA of 3.30 and is estimated to be posted for around 10 to 12 million US. And speaking of major leagues, let's finish things off with the 2014 World Series between the Kansas City Royals and the San Francisco Giants. And what has been an incredible series so far will be even more exciting as the series goes to a decisive Game 7. Now, with the American League champions, check that, facing off in a must-win situation, Royal starter Yolando Ventura comes up big as he throws 7 shutout innings, scattering just 3 hits. The Royals lineup did the rest, scoring 7 runs in the 2nd inning alone as they win Game 6 10-0. Meanwhile, Game 7 starters will be Tim Hudson for the San Francisco Giants and Jeremy Guthrie for the Kansas City Royals. And that's going to wrap it up for me. This has been SJ. Have a great rest of the day and see you guys again for your sports needs.
It's cloudier than earlier hours here in the capital, and as we can see on our satellite map, more clouds have rolled into the western parts of the peninsula, and soon the whole nation will have cloudy skies. But the top temperatures will be on the mild side, rising to above 20 in many regions. So today will be a bit milder and cloudier than yesterday, but dry weather continues, so be extra cautious if you're dealing with fire. But the dryness in the air will be relieved soon as we have the nationwide showers in the forecast over the weekend. So if you have any plans to be outdoor this weekend, take the weather into account. With that in mind, here are the readings for today. Now, the daytime high in the capital and Gwangju and Busan will be all topping out at 21, while Daegu will be peaking at 20 this afternoon. Now, on to other regions. It seems like Jeju Island and Daejeon will be getting up to 21, while Dokdo Sea highs of 17 this afternoon. Well, that's all for Korea, and here's international weather for viewers around the world.
Well, that's all we have for now, news-wise, but we will be back again at noon Korea time. Until then, goodbye.